This week on The Big Show, we kick off our celebration of Black women directors in the month of September with a celebration of pioneering director Neema Barnette. Show correspondent Wilson Morales will also join us to discuss this week in entertainment. Plus, we'll have reviews for two new releases, Mulan and Tenet, all on episode 415 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, welcome to The Big Show. I am Tim Gordon. It's called Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. We are back for another edition of our home editions of The Big Show. And of course, we have a real big show planned for you guys today. As I said on the front end, we're going to be celebrating in the month of September Black women directors, and today we start off with a woman whose work I respect, award-winning director Neema Barnette. In addition to that, Wilson Morales, as I said, is going to join us as he does at the top of each of our shows to give us the 411 on what's going on in entertainment. And we'll have reviews, which I'm really excited to do, reviews for Christopher Nolan's latest release, Tenet, as well as Mulan, which has debuted on Disney Plus. So all that's coming up a little later on. So before we get to Wilson, let's kick off our celebration of Black women directors with the woman that we call the Oscar Michaud of Black female directors, and that is none other than Tressie Saunders. Born Teresa Ann Saunders on February 7th, 1897. She passed on January 17th, 1995, Charles, and she was the first known African-American female to direct a feature film, 1922's A Woman's Era. Now, it's not yet known how Saunders got into the filmmaking business, although it is known that she performed in an amateur theatrical production, a morality play entitled Every Negro, written by the Reverend A. Lawrence Kimbrough of the Holy Chapel Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, wow, of Frankfort, Kansas in 1918. That's a lot. In January 1922, the Afro-American Film Exhibition Company of Kansas City, Missouri, with offices in Maryland and in Dallas, contracted with Saunders to distribute her film, A Woman's Era. So this film was known to be the first of its kind to be produced by a young woman of our race and has been passed on by critics as a picture of a true Negro life. Now, to date, Charles, no prints of this film have been located, nor do we have any photos of Tressie Saunders, but we acknowledge her today as the first Black female to direct, or the first Black woman, to direct a major motion picture. Your thoughts, Charles?
I really wish I could have seen this film. It's terrible that there are no copies anywhere that can be found, and that speaks to the legacy of Black film and how it's been preserved. So, congratulations, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's something that I did not know. I mean, coming in, I tried to have a lot of knowledge as it relates to this, and the more I researched it and looked through her filmography, it's not known if she made another film, but she was the first one to make a film. 2 years after, or actually 3 years after Oscar Michaud debuted. His first film was in 1919, hers in 1922. So we acknowledge Tressie Saunders as the first Black woman to direct a film. I'm not going to call it a major motion picture. Every film was a major motion picture during that time period. So this is I want to set the tone. This is what we're going to be doing all month long. And as I said, coming up later in the show, Neema Barnette is going to join us as we continue our salute. But right now, we're going up to New York, and we are going to bring in our colleague, our friend, and the brother who joins us to talk entertainment with us every week. It is none other than blackfilmandtv.com's publisher, creator, and friend, Wilson Morales, super journalist. How you doing, brother?
I'm good.
So you see, we going back to our old, back in the day, thing that we were doing. And I like the guns out, man. That's
Yeah,
a good thing for you, man. I see what you're doing.
The power shirt.
Wilson is such a show off, man. It's ridiculous, man. Really? Do we need to see the power shirt today, man? So
maybe I need to roll up my sleeves.
Oh my God. All right. So what's going on in entertainment this week, Wilson?
Well, it's the biggest weekend we've had in a long time. You've got a lot of films of worthy that's out right now, whether it's on the big screen or the small screen. You've got some TV shows happening. Obviously the big one this week is Tenet. And just recently I just saw the news that it's going to cross $100 million overseas, thanks to China. And that, that's a good sign for Warner Brothers. That's a good sign for the industry, that as more theaters start to open up around the world, except for LA, New York, now it's a matter of, are people still going to go out? Are they going to increase from 25% to 30% and so forth? So you've got that. You've got, on the opposite end, you've got Mulan, which is playing on Disney Plus Premium, because this is the one film that they're actually charging for, $29.99. And a lot of people are home. I actually saw it this morning through my press account, so I was fortunate enough not to pay for it. And it's a good film. It's a good film. I don't know how parents may want to feel like, as many people that saw Hamilton over and over again because it was free on Disney Plus, I wonder how many times people are going to buy the film. But nevertheless, they're saving money from bringing out the whole family to the theater.
Right.
So you've got that. Netflix has, I'm thinking of Ending Things, which is Charlie Kaufman's latest film. Well-respected journalist. Well-respected director, writer. He's won an Oscar. So that's an interesting film that's playing over at Netflix. And there's a lot of just it's starting to look normal. But like I said, but you also have Robert Pattinson just tested for COVID while shooting The Batman, and so they had to stop production. They began production again, then they stopped it again. So we don't know what's happening there. Obviously, he's the lead of that film, and that could have an impact on the industry as far as, I'm sure they've went through a lot of protective measures for him not to get it. But if he's getting it on the set, how would that develop other projects coming up down the road?
Well, I thought the idea when they resumed production is they were going to try to shoot around him. But then I guess common sense kicked in that, as you said, he's the star of the film. So he's on the set and he's interacted with a lot of people. As I said, man, the jury's out, and it just, we have to just keep an eye on it, man, moving forward. Not just with this film, but with all films that are trying to resume production.
Yeah. We're hitting September, so we got a lot of stuff on TV. As I mentioned, the return of the Power franchise is coming up. It's the latest spinoff, the new spinoff, actually, the first of 4. This one's called Power Book 2 Ghost, bringing back most of the characters that survived from the original Power series. So that's coming up along with the season finale of P-Valley, which only had 8 episodes, but was good enough that they got renewed for season 2.
So Wilson, stop. You glossed over it. When does book 2 premiere? Power is Power Ghost?
Yeah.
Book 2?
It's called Power Book 2 Ghost.
Thank you.
For those who have the Stars app, it will start appearing at midnight on Saturdays if you have the app. And for everybody else who just wants to watch it on TV, Sundays at 9 p.m.
So wait a minute, stop. You mean to tell me that Power thinks they're strong enough to go up against Lovecraft County that is killing the game right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love Wilson. Yes.
Well,
yes.
It did have a huge following, so it's possible that people are going to go back.
Here's the thing, though. Anybody who's a Power fiend, you're not going to wait till Sunday to watch it because it's going to appear tonight at midnight. So people are going to be watching it on the app, on their on demand, pretty much before it airs at 9 o'clock. Because if you're following social media, it's going to be trending. For the same reason, P-Valley, which has the season finale before Power airs, that trends on Sunday morning because people saw it Saturday on the app. So you can watch both. You know, you can watch both. You can watch Power early on because you don't want to get caught out there on Twitter with people spoiling stuff,
Right.
and then catch Lovecraft Country. You know, so you know that's the beauty of the app is that like, okay, I'll watch it early, you know, and then before Lovecraft Country comes on. So it's not so much a competition. And then like, and if you don't have both and you're trying to catch, you know, either or, you know that Power, I think they both get repeated right afterwards. You know,
Right.
I think Lovecraft will get repeated like maybe an hour or two later. One at 9, and the second one on its encore hour.
All right, brother, you got 4 more minutes, man. What we got?
You know, well, earlier this week, and you know, there was the issue with John Boyega, in which he called out Star Wars for the marketing of his character, the marketing of his portrayal of Finn, and you know, a lot of outlets made notice of it. You know, he did an article for GQ, and he basically talked about how, you know, I don't know the exact words, don't quote me, but basically he was saying that like he was used for racial politics, you know, and what he signed up for is not what it ended out to be, you know. And as we all saw, the 3 films, you know, from get-go, you know, race was an issue with his character when it wasn't an issue in the previous Star Wars films. You know, and granted, when you're doing these trilogies, you know, you have a contract to sign, you know, you have to, you know, pretty much come out and support the film. But his run of that franchise is over, so he's speaking out. And, you know, I did some talk on it with some different outlets, and I said, listen, a lot of actors go through things where you never know what you sign up for. You do a film, and sometimes your role's cut short, or they cut you out in its entirety, you know, or the marketing is wrong. You know, you just don't know, you know. And, you know, depending where you are in the industry, whether or not you have the quote unquote power to speak up, because you still want to work in this industry and get your next job and not fear that like that anybody's going to think like, oh, if he doesn't like what's happened, he's going to speak out.
Well, I mean, you know, long-term ramifications for his brother Wilson.
I think he'll be fine. You know, he's got the film with Steve McQueen coming up, and I'm sure he's going to sign up some other stuff. You know, so I think what's going to happen now is the roles he takes, he's going to be more careful, and whoever offers him a role is going to be more careful as to what they're going to offer him.
Yeah, and as it should be. But yeah, I mean, I thought he had a legitimate point about Star Wars, man. I mean, I thought that you know, both him and Daisy Ridley showed up at the same time. It's clear that they had a great idea what they wanted to do with her character, not so much with his. So I think there was a lot of frustration because I think there was a lot of anticipation with him showing up in that universe that for what he ended up doing over the course of those 3 movies, maybe he was disappointed and people who supported him were disappointed as well. So,
well, one of the things he said was he thought his role was going to be bigger
right.
in the Star Wars universe than what it was. And basically it was a bait and switch. They brought him in and then they changed it up on him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think all 3 scripts were written out. And I think after the first film, and they're, you know, the powers that be are looking at Twitter and they're looking at social media and they're looking at what people are writing. And then they said, okay, as they went into the second film, they rewrote that. And then the same thing for the third film.
Right. Well, bruh, you know, Wilson, you know I tell you and tease you every week, man. I think you're doing an amazing job, man. And you've been on it this week, man, reporting story after story. Let people know on social media where they can now follow you and be very emphatic about it as well.
You can follow me over at blackfilmandtv.com, which is the same words you use for Facebook and YouTube and IG. You know, before I let go, there's a documentary that's out right now called Mr. Soul, which is worth seeing. It's about Ellis Hazlip, who basically was the first Black variety show, you know, to come out and have all these celebrities before they became known. So that's a good documentary to see. Well,
she is Melissa Hazlip, who is the niece of Ellis Hazlip and the director and creator of that documentary, will be a part of our celebration of women directors. So she'll be on our show next week. So you can actually talk to Melissa again, Wilson, before she comes on our show, man. So, but thank you, brother. Okay. Enjoy your weekend, man. Keep flexing, showing them guns and your little power. It kills me with Wilson. Wilson got to let us know every week about the gear.
You wearing a nightshirt, so you being all athletic.
Whatever, Wilson. Whatever, man. You take care, bro, and enjoy your weekend, man, and we'll get up with you, sir.
All right, take care.
All right, man. You take care. All
Like,
right, and of course,
I'm when they actually dress for the show here. I got a shirt on with a collar. What's going on,
man,
here?
you're looking good, man. So, of course, that is Wilson Morales, who joins us at the top of every show to give us a breakdown on what's going on in entertainment. So our next guest, Charles, is a woman who I've spent a lot of time following her work. She has engaged audiences with a body of socially compelling and politically charged work that defies the narrow stereotypes of African Americans usually depicted in entertainment. She's worked both in television and film and has earned the respect of peers and critics alike by winning countless accolades, becoming the first African-American woman to direct a primetime show, the first African-American woman to get a 3-picture deal with Sony, and has accumulated a number of awards, including a Peabody, an Emmy, an Image Award, and I saved the best for last. Of course, she has received a Black Reel Award. I am honored to finally have on our show for the first time Miss Neema Barnette, she's coming. She's coming. It takes a minute with our technology. She's coming. She's there.
Yeah.
How you doing, sister?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I feel bad because I wore like a kind of like an athletic shirt. Charles put on a collared shirt for you. You sitting there looking all gussied up. I'm like,
are you serious? I'm in my house. I am not gussied up. Trust me.
How are you?
And put my little lights on so you can see me. That's about it, you know?
Hey, sister, how you doing? I'm so glad to finally have you on. I know you and I have talked over social media for years.
Yes, we have.
And it's finally great to have you in. Charles Kirkland, Neema Barnette.
Hi, Charles.
Very nice to meet you.
The pleasure is mine. It's nice to be met. I'm honored to be on the show. It's an important show. It's an important festival. It's important. The whole thing is important. So anytime something's important, I'm there.
Well, sister,
Right.
you know, I'm so honored to have you here. It was funny because when I was doing the research, which I didn't really have to do, I knew your background and I know the things that you've been doing recently, because a lot of it are things recently within the last 4 to 5 years that we've had an eye on for our Black Reel Awards for television. You know, I've followed work that you've done, you know, over the last 30 some odd years, even longer. I'm not trying to age you, but
I have to get a facelift time to time. You know, but I earned every wrinkle. Trust me.
Sister, you have done your thing. You know, it's funny because I remember when Ava announced Queen Sugar. I was gonna say Queen Soul. I'm getting it twisted with Melissa Hazelip's piece. But I remember watching some of the episodes that you directed on that. Black Lightning, which was another show recently that you've done some work on. So that's more of the recent stuff. You go back and look at your filmography, you know, Civil Brand, which was a 2003 movie that I remember we had our eye on back in the day. You worked with Spike and others on Miracle Boys. I mean, so your pelter on the wall, you have done your thing. So the first question I have for you is we're in the middle of I guess, month 6 now of this pandemic.
Yeah.
And everybody has had to make adjustments on how you continue to work in this environment. How has this pandemic affected you and what you do? Because in addition, do you call yourself a working director because you're also teaching at UCLA, USC, and in some points NYU. So how is all this affecting you, Neema?
Well, I haven't been teaching, you know, Ava is one individual who reaches back. And, you know, in the early part of my career, when I graduated from AFI, you know, I started working and stuff and doing episodic. Then I got into TV movies. But I was doing pretty well, but then my mom got sick. So I went back to Harlem, take care of her for 5 years, you know. And then when she passed away, I came back out to California. I had left CAA, I had left everything. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything really, so I started teaching. and I was teaching at UCLA and teaching at USC at the same time. Well, I taught at UCLA longer. And then I taught at USC for 7 years in the film department. And then AFI called me, my alma mater, and asked me to be a permanent faculty at AFI. So there was a big gap, between that. And then suddenly it was Mara Brock, my girl, who called me first and said, listen, I want you to do a couple of episodes of
Black Lightning.
Being Mary Jane.
Oh, Being Mary Jane, okay, beforehand.
One of them had Jill Scott in it, blah, blah, blah. So I said, oh, of course. So I went and did those two. And Paul Garnes, who is Ava's producing partner, Paul, he was the UPM on Being Mary Jane. So when Ava got Wrinkle in Time, she had to divide her time. So they were telling her she had to get somebody, right? So she called me. She reached out and asked me, did I want to be a producing director? I was like, what the hell is a producing director? And she said, well, you got to be me when I'm not there. I said, Ava, I'm not you, but I'll do my best. I mean, she told me it was all women, and what could I say? No. I had to say, she said, well, you were the first Black woman in history of television ever direct a sitcom, first Black woman to ever get a 3-picture deal. No. I said, no, you don't have to sell me on that. I'm from Harlem, and I'm still right here in my Harlem apartment. I understand. I know what's important. I support you, and I'm in. So it was after that year, at first year of Queen Sugar, which I'm very proud to say, all the people that I trained, Sally Richardson, Tanya Hamilton, So Young Kim, Tina Mayberry, that first group, they are soaring, they all making money, doing work, so which is good. But right after Queen Sugar, Steve Mann called me out of the blue. He said, are you in New York? I said, yep, I'm in my Harlem condo right here. He said, I want you to do the breaks. It's funny, how things happen. So I did the breaks. And after I did the breaks, it was like the whole junkie world lit up. It was just like one job after another, then Blind Spot and Luke Cage and The Good Cop and Midnight Texas and Raising Dion and Ambitions and, on and on. And now just recently, Genius Aretha. I just was working, but I had been working. So I got 3 grandchildren, okay? So I had to help. I had to, I was happy to make the money, but actually it was Ava who reached back out, and reached out and found me. And she also gave Julie Dash, who's my best friend, gave her an episode the next year of Queen Sugar. And then we got Ayoka Chinzera, who's our other best friend, episode the 3rd year. So she reached back out, to those who were back in the day when I had that deal and I had Black scripts that I wrote, but nobody wanted to do them, and they wanted me to change into white characters. I didn't want to do it. But then to see Ava accomplish everything she's accomplished, and I was original member of the Black Filmmakers Foundation with Warrington and Reggie and all those back in the day when Warrington and Reggie had those big fros. And that's what we got together for at a young age. We wanted to do independent Black distribution. Now
wait, let me jump in because we're supposed to be talking to you. You just giving it to us. I'm like, let me break it up.
No, questions. I'm sorry.
No, you good. You home, but I just want to ask you some stuff because you giving the audience all the information. We want to kind of set it up in steps.
You give Ava her props. I have to give Queen Ava her props because without her, I had suddenly a resurgence in my career.
Well, I tell the story all the time that we all know that before Ava became a filmmaker, she was a publicist. So many of us, Wilson Morales, who was just on, Sean Edwards, a lot of the major Black film critics knew Ava and have known Ava for almost close to 25 years now. So I was astounded because, we always talk privately and go, who knew that level of talent was in that system, man? I mean, she deserves all the props. And I continually am proud of everything that she has done, including, as you talked about with Queen Sugar, this idea that she would create this all-female sort of behind-the-scenes group of directors. And a lot of them, as you said, by virtue of the work that I do, we're familiar with a lot of them. Tina Mabry, did you mention Victoria Maloney?
I didn't, but she was one of my first.
She's another person we're familiar with. Tanya, what's the sister's name? Last name? Who did Night Catches Us? Hamilton. So I'm familiar with a lot of the work, but I wanted to start with you, and props to Ava DuVernay, and thank you for doing that, Neema. But I wanted to start with you because you made your debut as a director back in 1984. So it's like 35 years that you've been in the game, and you're one of the few people who, when we talk about crossing that divide in time, you worked on shows like The Cosby Show, or directed on The Cosby Show, A Different World, to now where we are now. Can you talk a little bit about the difference of what you saw back in the early, I guess the mid to late 80s, to where we are now, and how we have advanced and what you've seen between that?
I've seen a lot, my brother.
I know you have. I know you have. I want the audience to know, because I have a feeling, but I want to hear this.
Well, I think that the biggest difference I've seen from back in the day and now is more Black control over Black product. And I think that's, that to me is very important, and I see now more speaking up than I did than it was back in the day. When I started, more Black crew members, not enough still. And I have a big issue with that. But I think that also the tide has changed. And the fact that we have so many independent filmmakers and so much talent, and we have the digital age now where people can make films with their iPhones, and they can be great. And we don't have to depend on, which is what Warrington and all of us were attempting to do back in the day with Black Filmmakers Foundation, to form an organization where we had independent Black distribution, where we didn't have to depend on anybody to show our films. So I think that the biggest difference is Black actors speaking up. Well, I think particularly now with Black Lives Matter, it wasn't as much before as it is now. And it gives me great pride to see people finally speaking up. Unfortunately, I wouldn't want any of those young filmmakers out there to follow in my footsteps, because I've been getting in trouble since day one. I come out of that, that era with Black leaders, Stokely, Malcolm, Martin Luther King, Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni. I came out of that group, Choreo Black Theater, which is where I started, with Ntozake Shange and all of that. So my politics were pretty much set before I took the plane out to Hollywood, at 23 years old. So I think that the politics is catching up, because now there aren't too many leaders like I had back in my day, but we are our own leaders. Individuals are taking control of their own life, of their own careers, and of their own images, and I think that's very important. Most of my fights have been about image control, quite frankly. I've had difficult times, like on Raising Dion, they had a white female showrunner, and I went at it with her consistently, almost to a point where I told Seth I was ready to quit. I did get my way, I did get the Black characters in my 2 episodes that I demanded. I scared them. I told Netflix, Black Twitter's gonna kill you if you do this. If you make your girlfriend white, Black Twitter's gonna kick your ass, okay? So, but it's a constant thing, or like in Luke Cage, where, well, I must say that working for Black showrunners is a joy. It's a joy. Working for Mara and Celine was a joy. Working for Cheo and Luke Cage was a joy. Working with Will on Ambitions was a joy. It's very different when you have, and I hate to say this, but the overseer on a Black project. When I do those white shows like, Blind Spot and Midnight Texas and all that, and Bosch, it's a pleasure because I just do it. I do the best job, and I don't have it. I bring up something, why don't you make them African-American? Or why don't you make them this? Or like when I did Blind Spot, they wanted a white guy as an attorney. And then they wanted a white woman. And I said, well, have you ever thought of a Black woman to do it? So I recommended Gloria, and she got the job, and they loved her so much that she became reoccurring. You know, so what I found now is different. If back in the day, if I recommended, well, do you have to have a black guy valet and a black butler, and black this, black that? They looked at me like I was on crack. Okay, but now they listen, and you can make change. So I think that's and the fact that people my daughter's age, older or younger, know who they are. You know, we have raised our children and our young adults to have a sense of history. And I think that to me is the most important thing. In fact, that's why my husband and I started Black History Mini Docs, which we call Cliff Notes for the Digital Age. You know,
I definitely want to talk to you about that because I follow those on Instagram.
That's the biggest difference. You
yeah,
know,
those are great.
Fighting. Thank you. It's a family business. See, I'm sorry, but I tried to use a backdrop, but my husband was like, open the closet. He's in LA. I'm like, I'm not opening that closet. There's too much equipment, too much crap in there. So, you know, we do it at home. He's an artist, so he does it at home. But
her husband is Reed McCants, by the way, who's also an actor, and the two of them work well together. So, yes, I wanted to make sure we acknowledge Reed, too.
On a groove, you know. I'm from 145th Street. He's from the Lincoln Project. So we came up together, you know, we in a vibe. But I think that's the biggest difference that I find now. And also more comradeship between us as Black folks in the movie business. We look out for each other more. We watch each other's back. You know, we call each other more. I mean, I could call, and also working with Anthony Hemingway was fantastic. I love him on Genius Aretha. He had my back, I had his back. We were able to make changes. You know, the cast had our back. It's just like day and night, you know, it's just a good feeling to know that, because when I did Frank's Place, I remember telling Hugh Wilson, no, that song, you can't use that song. He said, well, Elvis Presley wrote that song. I said, no, I forgot what brother wrote it. It was some song. And then we were talking among the cast, right? So I said, I'm gonna go up and tell him. And they said, we're gonna go with you. So when I got up there, I felt this breeze behind me because nobody was
They left you hanging.
I was there, but that's okay. I'm used to it because, you know, directors come and go. I understand they need a job, you know, or I remember being so excited to work with Ron O'Neal in an episode of Frank's Place I did called, it was about you not being lighter than a brown paper bag. I was so excited. And I remember going to him, I was very young, and he was outside smoking. And I said, hi, my name is Neema Barnette. I'm a director. He had his head down, kept smoking. So I said, nigga, your lines is still open. You can get it if you want. He looked up. He said, what'd you say? I said, nigga, your lines is still open. You can get it if you want. He said, that's my shit. I said, I know. He said, who are you? I said, I'm Neema. I'm the director. He said, you the director? Oh, and let me tell you, that episode did win an Emmy, but that man was never more courteous and more wonderful on that set. I mean, and I learned, because it was one of my first gigs, you know, and I learned, you know, because when you're in New York, you think, why are they doing that stuff? Why don't the Black people get it together? Blah, blah, blah. Then you get out there and you realize how damaged and broken our people were. You know, being on the set, not being treated well, and this and that. And I understood. So I made it a point, anything I direct, that I treat the Black people on the set, the Black actors, just like it was Betty Davis or Meryl Streep. I don't play that, you know. And so I learned as I went along, you know, and I realized I'm not the first person to try to make change. People tried before me, you know, and that's the thing that I think our young filmmakers have to understand. You know, you're making progress, but remember, some of us tried too, and we made inroads, and now you're taking it all the way. So that's the biggest difference.
So
whatever that means, you know, we directors blab on, whatever that means.
You've had an extensive career working with, I mean, people from all over the range of acting, from comedians to serious actors to everything else. I mean, can you talk about maybe the social consciousness of the actors that you worked with from the beginning stages, yeah, and how it differs to like now with who you're working with?
I find a big difference. You know, I think that now when I've been honored to work with, you know, actresses like, you know, Alfre Woodard, just a whole range of wonderful talent. And I can talk to them much more freely, than I could before. If I wanted to make a change, which I guess as a hired director, I had no right to make, but I tried to make it anyway. Back in the day, actors were very hesitant. Black actors were very hesitant, to speak up, or it's not that they didn't agree with me, and I would say, well, listen, we don't have to accept this. This is about our culture. And it's not true. So why would you do it? There was a fear of losing a job. People were just happy to get a job, and I understood people had bills to pay and everything. And some people sacrifice, some people don't. But now I can depend on actors to be behind me if I want to make a change, and we talk about it and they agree, they're with me. They're not afraid to speak up. They're not afraid to take a stand, when necessary, because after all, particularly in Black projects, it is our culture. We do know it. Like the woman on Raising Dion, she said, well, my husband is Cuban. I said, well, what the hell has that got to do with being a Black woman? I'm saying your husband's Cuban, okay. Yeah, that's the biggest difference. I think now I feel we are a tribe on the set. We are more unified, and I can make a suggestion, they can get it, or they knew about it and didn't want to say anything, and I said I'll say something, and they agreed, and then they do stand by me, which is a big difference.
No wind behind you when you go, but now.
Right.
There's a heavy wind behind me that day. But we got it done. And when you see people like, I'm glad I got the chance to work with Ron O'Neal. I did see him do Othello. I didn't know him then in London when I was on a theater internship, and I saw the change in him. He's such a great actor, and he got an Emmy nomination for that particular role. Who wrote that episode? Sam R. Williams. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
He was a playwright, and then he was the showrunner on the show with Sheena and the comedian. Oh my God!
You talking about Martin?
Yeah, Martin.
Martin.
Okay, all right.
So he was a playwright before that, and I started my career in theater as a theater director. So he wrote that episode, and Sam and I would say, because he said, Neema, he's going to give you the job, but act like you don't know me, because I don't want you getting me in no trouble. I want to keep this job. But, I was honored to do it. It was very well written. And Ron O'Neal got his day. He was fabulous. So, But like I said, I learned a lesson. And they couldn't speak up back then. Or if they did, they got shot down. They didn't like, I would say, well, I can't see him. You need to give him a key light or whatever. And I would have to argue with the DP, because if you have a Black person in the scene, pardon me, one Black person, medium brown skin or whatever, and then you have a bunch of white people, the DP wouldn't even think of lighting for her. You know what I mean? And they would just be a spot, I remember when I did my first movie, Better Off Dead, with Mayor Whittingham and Tyra Farrell. Remember Tyra?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So after that, it was a pretty big hit, back then they gave Cable Ace Awards, but it was the first film that Lifetime ever did that had a Black woman and a white woman lead. And how I got the job was I went in, and Gloria Steinem was one of the executive producers.
Okay.
And what do you think of the script? I said, oh, it's the same old shit. You got the Black woman who's the bad guy, you got the white woman who's attorney. So she said, what would you do? I'll never forget this. I said, I would switch it. I would make the Black woman attorney who thinks she could do what her white boss does and thinks she could break that glass ceiling, then she finds out she can't, and make Mayor the bad girl, which they presented the idea to Mayor Whittingham. She loved it, and we changed the whole story, But after that, I got this, I don't know if I should talk about it, but anyway, it was a long time ago. But
man, nobody watches us, man. Just talk about it.
I got this note from Cecily Tyson. And my agent at the time said, Cecily Tyson wants to meet you. I said, huh? And she said, yes, because she had never seen a woman her color lit so well when she saw Better Off Dead. So I went and I met with her. She had this brown shopping bag. She pushed it over to me. She said, you're talented. I want you to take care of yourself. She said, we lost Rosalind Cash, Madge St. She went on to say, broken heart. She said, you're important, and take these vitamins. Bag full of herbs and vitamins, So,
wow.
Yeah, that was pretty deep,
So that's the secret on why she's 95 and still looks like that.
Yes, that's the secret. That's one of them.
Man,
Besides having a just brilliant soul and spirit, and I'm sure the ancestors know how important she is, and they protect her.
amen to that. Amen
But
to that.
you have little jewels along the way that keep you going. Like now, like I said, to see all these young filmmakers pop up, particularly Black women, with just such wonderful stories and such talent, and they don't have to wait on anybody. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, film is an elitist business. Let's face it. It's the strongest social and political tool we have, right? So it's going to be a little tough to get in there. I was poor, so I had no choice but to go get accepted to a film school, to give me money to make a movie, because the theater, I could put soapboxes in the park down the street and do a play. But when I found out how much money a movie made, I was like, okay, I'm out. What am I going to do? I ain't never going to get that kind of money. But now it's different. And we have tribes and teams, and we help each other. They can call on their friend who's a DP. They can shoot it. They can call on actors. They can read scripts and say, I want to make this short, or so many great books out by young Black authors that you can make take the short story and make a film. It's just so many more opportunities now for them.
Oh, excuse me, Neema, we got about 3 minutes left with you, and I'm going to revisit.
Any questions that you wanted to ask me?
Well, yeah, but you know what? We good, because I want to make sure you come back. And we want to continue the conversation, but like I said, I got a couple of minutes left.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge, first of all, that the whole idea behind what we're doing this month, saluting Black women directors. I thought about you. I thought about, you talked about your best friend, Julie Dash. I thought about people like Kathleen Collins. I thought about Uzan Palsy. I thought about so many women who were pioneers back in the day when you started, or maybe even before you, who had to deal with a lot of the issues that you discussed on our show today. But I'm glad to see that you survived in the business long enough to see it kind of turn. And as you said, have more people of color, specifically Black people, being in charge, being able to tell these stories. And now you're able to transition from that period, when you first began, to where we are right now. So, and Cicely Tyson is right. You are a treasure. You are important as well to what it is that we're doing. And you still got a lot of work ahead of you, whether it's in the classroom, on the set, on a film set, on a television set.
I've got 2 movies left in me. I always want to make movies. I never even wanted to do television, but that's where I landed up. When the poor Black girl from Harlem lands up doing TV and getting paid, she stays there, So, no, I don't have that much more work to do. I'm happy. Well, I'm happy.
You see my face, Neema?
I like to do when I get back home here for good, But you guys make me proud. That's all I have to say. I'm honored to be on your show. I could not say no, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, and the fact that's why I told the story about Ron O'Neal, that you're giving credit to those who deserve it. It's not easy to make a film, and a lot of us who haven't made film, directing TV, we are making changes, like Anthony and I, and see little by little, beat by beat. So what you see on the screen was not easy to get there.
Well, I want you to come back though, when because I think they pushed Genius back to 2021.
Yeah, they're finished.
Yes, I definitely want, so I don't want you to talk too much about it now, because we can't see it and the audience can't either, but I definitely want to get a promise from you that I'm going to give you a call and we're going to bring you back. So Neema, before we let you go, we always tell people, if you have projects or anything that are coming up, you want to promote or plug, here's your spot right here, Neema.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 little things really fast. Black History Mini Docs, blackhistoryMiniDocs.com. 90 seconds worth of history, know the royalty you come from. And my movie that I'm doing, which is called John Henry, about 3 Black boys in the South Bronx. And one of them is dying, and his brother and his friends take him to Virginia. They go on an adventure to Virginia because he wants to be see the tunnel where John Henry was.
Nice.
So
All
So
right.
that's my plug.
Neema, you know how the phrase goes, don't be a stranger. You ain't gonna be a stranger anyway, because you and I talk all the time anyway. It was my honor, honestly, to have you and sincerely to have you on the show today, because I knew that there was so much information that you wanted to impart, and I think you got a lot of it out. I just want to make sure we do something a lot longer the next time, because I enjoy talking to you, and I know Charles feels the same way.
Absolutely. That's so many questions I still could ask you.
All right.
You know I'll answer them, Charles, okay? I have nothing to lose, okay? I have nothing.
Queen Neema, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Pleasure. And you guys be safe and be well and continue the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, sister. We'll be in touch with you, and you enjoy your afternoon this holiday weekend.
Don't get in no trouble like I did when I was young.
Thank you. We will not.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. And of course, that was the great Neema Barnette, who is still listening to us. And I'll just keep saying wonderful things about her as she is getting off. I mean, Charles, you see what we were doing, man, when we did our salute to female directors, man. That sister's great, man. I mean, she is really, really.
Keep going. I'm leaving now. Keep it going.
Somebody who is steeped in our culture. And as I said, man, who has directed over the course of 35 years, man. So she's done some amazing work. I'm glad that we have been able to acknowledge it, at least with the Black Reel Award. So I looked at that last night. I was like, oh, yeah, she did win. Yeah.
I mean, she's done stuff from, like you said, for 35 years, all over the place. She did with Cosby, a Different World, like you said. Even I just watched the Luke Cage that she did the other day. I was like, man, she did Luke Cage too. She's phenomenal.
All right, man. So here we go, man. You know, I always laugh because what you guys don't see Charles and I do when we're in the studio is every time we're about to review movies, I go, all right, Charles, you got everything together? And Charles will dig through his iPad and he'll pull up the teas, and I go, come on, Charles, we're waiting on you, man. Let's get this thing cracking. So I had to go find this last night, man. Because
I was gonna say, was I supposed to put it up for you again?
No, man, I got it, man. All right, so here we go. You ready, Charles?
Should I stay or go?
No, of course you stay in for this, man, because, you know, I need to look at your face, man. That's the other funny part when we're in the studio when I'm doing reviews, and Charles gives me these faces, and I'm like, wait, what? So we're going to do this again. So watch this, Charles. Welcome back to our final segment. And as usual, this week's reviews are brought to you by the FilmGordon.com. Experience film through the eyes of a true film addict. You see that? Check out all our film content at thefilmgordon.com. Now, this week, there are 2 new films, one in theaters, the other streaming. And we start with the one about a young, determined girl who deceives her father and fights for her family honor in Mulan, which is an action drama produced by Walt Disney. It's a live-action adaptation of Disney's 1998 animated film of the same name and based on Chinese folklore, The Ballad of Mulan. The film stars Lia Yilai, I think I'm mispronouncing the name, and I apologize in advance, in the title role alongside Donnie Yen, Jason Scott, Lee, Yosan An, Gong Li, and Jet Li in supporting roles, and it's directed by Nikki Caro with a screenplay by Rick Jaffa. So, you know, this film tells a story when the Emperor of China issues a decree that one man per family must serve in the imperial army to defend the country from the northern invaders. Hua Mulan, the eldest daughter of an honored warrior, steps in to take the place of her ailing father. Now, masquerading as a man, Huan Yun, she is tested every step of the way and must harness her inner strength and embrace her true potential. The film is an epic journey that will transform her from an honored warrior and earn her the respect of a grateful nation and a proud father. I was going to try and play a trailer from the film. We're not there yet. I'm not ready to experiment with that because that one might go a little sideways. So let me just give my review. I had an opportunity to see this film about a week ago, and Charles and I have had this conversation. Not to me, I do remember the animated film was really, really popular. I watched it. I remember Eddie Murphy was really, really funny in it. The film had some great songs. But Disney did something that surprised me this time, Charles. They went in an entirely a different direction where they kept kind of the skeleton of the story. They stripped out, they changed the tone significantly. So it's not funny. They took out the songs, which was another huge thing. And then they made sort of a martial arts Disney film, if that makes any sense. So, when you think about the animated story of a Brave, where we take that story of a young girl who matures into a strong leader and a warrior, they kept the bones of that, made it live action, and then incorporated a lot of martial arts stars or people that you've seen in these films. And I thought they did a tremendous job with this film. I mean, the young lady who plays Mulan, I thought is really, really strong as she's masquerading in this camp as this warrior. And as the film kind of progresses, you see her evolution, her confidence start to grow as she's spending time around these men, keeping her identity secret, but at the same time having to fight them on a day-to-day basis. And then her confidence is up as she proves to be better than all of them. And I thought, Gong Li, who plays, they've transformed this character, and she's now a witch who works with the opposition, who grows to respect Mulan. I thought that role that was a really strong role. I thought Donnie Yen as her commander was really strong in that as well. I liked Mulan a whole lot. And I know this film is streaming on Disney Plus right now at $29.95. I hate to say this because I don't want to be in anybody's pocket. It's worth the money. It also would have been a much better experience if it was on the big screen. But this movie, I've been fluctuating all week, Charles, whether I give it an A- or a B+. And I think I'm going to split the difference and go straight down the middle and give it a straight A. I really liked Mulan a lot, and I liked the idea behind it, how Disney restructured it, stepped outside the box, and made a film that I think will appeal to Asian American audiences or audiences from that culture, as well as kind of the Disney-esque sort of folks without dumbing it down. It was great that they found an all Asian cast, so we don't have any of these kind of, problems with, you casting Scarlett Johansson as a, so I really like this film a lot, man. And as I said, I'm going to give Mulan an A. So you have time as I'm setting up for our final review, Charles. Do you have anything on the Mulan piece?
You told me that you liked this film better than the original.
I did.
And to which I said, man, when was the last time you watched the original? So,
I will say this, man, because I'm not going to trash the original or say anything negative about it. But you and I both know that my film recall on stories that I really like or dislike strongly is very high. And the fact that I have limited recall on the original Mulan, that's all I'll say, man. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. It's just not a movie that sticks out in my subconscious. It's a movie that I remember outside of how I set this one up.
I think the biggest difference is that this new Mulan is more for adults than it is for children.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. That's why I was talking about the change in the tone. All right, man. So finally, the film that the industry is banking on to bring audiences back to the cinema has arrived. Will audiences buy what director Christopher Nolan is selling, or will they just be temporary movie tenants? I knew that was corny. I wanted to go with it anyway, man. It made me laugh when I wrote it. Tenet is a spy film written and directed by Christopher Nolan, who, if you listen to this show over the course of 11 years, you'll know that I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan, who produced it with his business partner and love partner, Emma Thomas. The film stars John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki, Dimple Kapadia, Michael Caine, and Kenneth Branagh. And the plot follows a secret agent who must manipulate the flow of time in order to prevent World War III. Now, Charles, this is the first movie that got me back in the theater after 6 months. I was invited to a kind of super secret screening of this film, where there were a total of 11 people in a 300-seat theater. After I had talked about never going back to the movies during the pandemic, so I was forced to go back to watch Tenet. And going in, the expectation was high. Stop it, Charles. The expectation was high. Here's what I will say about Tenet. I love Christopher Nolan, who honestly comes up with concepts that are concepts that you may be familiar, or tropes that you may be familiar with, right? A heist film, you know, these sorts of things, a spy thriller, you're familiar with those. But he has this fascination with the manipulation of time in films, you know, whether it's Memento, where the story is being told in reverse, whether it's not Interstellar, but
yeah, Interstellar.
No, the before Interstellar, the one with Leo DiCaprio. What was it called?
Oh,
Inception. Inception.
Yeah.
Inception, where, you know, we have a dream and a dream and a dream. In this film, which I think I will just talk about, that the plot, as I told you, is about an ex-CIA agent who is on the trail of an arms dealer who is dealing with weapons, who is peddling weapons from the future. So in order for this film to really come home and work, the science involved in this film has got to be rock solid. And the explanation of the science, which I don't want to go too deep into because I don't want to ruin the viewing experience. I think for me, the biggest issue I had with this film is that I thought that the science in the explanation wasn't really airtight. Like, he worked it out and he explains it in the film, and they have scenes that kind of show it. But I think that the explanation, I don't think, is rock solid. And then I think the second part, which I think was also interesting, is that the film has a score, and I don't want to mispronounce whoever did the score, but the score is very evasive and very loud. And then there's times when there's certain dialogue that the score may blur out the dialogue. And I just thought it was me when I was watching the film, but I talked to several of my colleagues afterwards as we sat around all trying to figure out, like, did you hear that part? No, I didn't hear that part either. And then you also had situations, as you see in the trailer, where they're wearing masks and some of the dialogue is kind of muted behind the mask. So I think for me, my running joke was, you know, I know that John David Washington talked about in interviews that you got to see this film 5 times in order to really get it. I think you need to see it a bare minimum of 3. And you almost have to study for your Tenet certification test, because it's a movie that by the time you get to the 3rd act and you get to the climax, I will just say that I need to watch this film a couple more times. I don't think it's bad. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that the optimal experience to me was somewhat blurred between lines I couldn't hear, throughout the dialogue, throughout the, over the score, through mass. I thought the science wasn't, as I said, it wasn't perfect, but I love the fact that Christopher Nolan takes these shots and makes these sorts of stories, because I thought at some point, I was like, man, this film may be too smart for the audience. I don't think the audience is gonna get this movie. But I thought the entire cast, John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki, Kenneth Branagh, all top shelf. It's great. I mean, that aspect, the acting is great. The sets are great. The science, I'm not gonna say anything. And I've been vague on purpose, because one of the lines in the film is, you just gotta feel it. This movie is an experience. You gotta feel it. And I want audiences to feel it, because I can be wrong. Somebody can go, Tim is tripping. When I watched it, I didn't hear or see any of that stuff that Tim said. But when you see time being manipulated, and I don't know if I want to talk about it, Charles, but there's one scene in the film that I thought was one of the most amazing cinematic things I'd ever seen. And I'm still wondering, wish I could have interviewed him to ask him how he did it, where you've got stuff happening forward in time, backwards in time, all simultaneously. I was like, wow. So Christopher Nolan is my guy. So even in a film that I totally don't understand, didn't totally get the first time I saw it, I call it a glorious, not failure, but a glorious experiment that I probably need to watch a couple more times to really appreciate it on the level of a Memento, an Inception, The Dark Knight, etc., the films that he's made that I love. So I would say, honestly, for a grade, until I see this thing a couple more times, I'm going to give it an incomplete, which you've never heard me do before for a movie. I'm giving it an incomplete grade, man, because there's stuff that I still don't understand about the film. And despite the fact that I think the science doesn't work, and the science not working to me is the biggest problem, because in order for us in the audience to go on this adventure with you to really buy it, your science has got to be rock solid. So in Inception, when you explain to us a dream inside of a dream, I got the dream inside of a dream, man. I mean, that one really worked well. That's our timer, meaning I've gone over, man. So I will just say this. I gave this film an incomplete grade, and Inception is in theaters, and I know a lot of people aren't feeling being in theaters. Charles, I'll give you a minute to rebut. What are you thinking?
Okay, first of all, nobody forced you to go see Tenet. When I told you weeks ago that I would go, you could have said, "Hey, Charles, go for me." But that's neither here nor there. Second of all, I think with Interstellar, I think Nolan has been going down this path of some hinky science things that it has made it hard to kind of understand and comprehend. And I think Interstellar I like the movie as well, but I thought there was a little at the end that just disrupted the whole film for me.
I agree.
So it's where he's going. I guess I got to get a science degree in Nolanology or whatever it is, Nolanifics.
You need to get a Tenet certification, brother. I'm telling you. You see it 3 times, you can sit for the test. But I tell you what, man. Both these movies this weekend are films that deserve to be on the big screen. I just don't know if audiences are ready to go back. Honestly, I know I'm not, and nobody in my camp wants to see me at a movie again anytime soon. But I will just say this, man. I want to thank both Wilson Morales, who came on and with his power shirt on and his guns out this weekend, to give us the entertainment happenings, as well as Queen Neema Barnette, who just dropped so many jewels on us this week. This is our first show as we're promoting and saluting and celebrating Black women directors. Melissa Hazlett, who has directed Mr. Soul, will be on our show next week. So as I tell you guys in closing every week, please see something good at the movies or at home and streaming services. Charles Kirkland, my brother, thank you for doing what you do. And I'm Tim Gordon. And until next week, man, we out. You guys take care.